It's been a long off season without football, but FanDuel has spent it getting into the best shape of their lives. That means this. FanDuel is ready for more. More ways to play, more ways to challenge your friends, and most importantly, more ways to win. FanDuel also has new options for playing daily fantasy with your friends, because the only thing better than winning cash is winning your friends' cash. Right now, you can get a $20 bonus when you make your first deposit on FanDuel. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/Stephen A. Age and state restrictions apply.
And now, Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio.
When I pop the trunk, head the deck. Y'all pop the trunk, I pop the hood.
Now act stupid, I'll pop the trunk. Now give me your boom.
He is Jalen Anthony Rose. What are you doing?
What do I like to be called?
I don't. Oh my God. We haven't done a podcast for a week. Okay. Why are you doing this to me today? Why are you doing this to me today?
Because on this
Jalen
program,
versus everybody is not your name. Okay. It's not your name.
Jacoby isn't your name. What are you saying? Your name is David.
Jacoby.
What are you saying?
They call me David.
All right. Jalen and David.
What?
Let's change the name.
Let's do it right now.
Okay, cool.
Get a Sharpie. He is Jalen versus everybody.
What is that?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in. Center stage on the mic.
And we putting it on wax. It's the new style.
Chill.
We're Jalen and Jacoby. What do?
We get the people.
Yes.
What they want.
It's been a long time.
We shouldn't have left you
without a dope pod to step to.
Uh-huh.
Just trust us. You know, we love our podcast listeners, those that have been down with us for so long. Just trust us. We know that we've left you without a dope pod to step to for a while. We are very cognizant of the fact that the last few weeks we've just been podding here and there. We've been preempted on television, so we don't have to be here, but we've been in the kitchen cooking.
Preempted, for all of those that don't work in television, means the company has a more important property that they'd rather put on instead of you.
They got something else that's going to rate better than us.
Okay, and that happens to be the U.S. Open.
And 12-year-olds playing baseball.
Nadal and Serena.
12-year-olds from other countries playing baseball.
Okay,
Something's
that's
more important than us.
But two, we got to make sure we acknowledge that there will be a special announcement for supporters of this program who have been with us 7.5 years, that have saw us grow from being a podcast where, like other industry podcasts, had bobbleheads or helmets or Sports Illustrated models up, to creating some flavor and personality on the wall, to a 2-hour radio show, to a late night television show, to an afternoon 30-minute television show.
We got a big announcement coming up.
Got a big announcement to show.
There's
our
not
growth.
going to be less Jalen and Jacoby in your future.
No.
There's a lot more Jalen and Jacoby in your future.
Yes.
And all I can tell you about the big announcement is Reggie's excited.
Yes.
And Reggie doesn't get excited very much.
Yes.
You know, Reggie doesn't get excited.
No.
Like, you know, Reggie's calm. He's always, you know, he's even keel. He's excited, I can tell.
Yes, indeed.
We've been gone for a while. There's a lot to catch up on in the world of sports and pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Are you streaming right now?
Yes.
Okay. That's weird.
She been streaming for 30 minutes.
But that's like behind the scenes before we start the show.
Man, we all the way live. We keep it funky.
Okay.
We
good.
freestyle. I'm KRS-One of the game.
You're a cameraman and talent at the same time.
Yes.
So there's a lot to catch up on.
Your handsome face.
And one thing I'm really excited about is Jalen was like, can we talk about Kaepernick? Can we please talk about Kaepernick? And here's the thing. This isn't on TV. Executives don't listen to the podcast.
No.
This is just us. This is just us and our podcast listeners. How many times has an executive wrote me an email? No executives ever wrote me an email saying, on the podcast, you guys really crossed the line.
No.
They've done it with the TV show.
Yep.
But they've never done it with the podcast, because this is just us.
Okay.
This is just us. This is
DJ
just us.
Doc, you know he's down with us.
So,
Too hot for TV.
it's been 30 years since the Just Do It campaign was released. The Just Do It campaign is sort of like it's a pivotal moment in the history of one of the biggest companies in sports. And it was such a huge campaign that is still with us to this day. It is still a slogan of the company. Do you think some of the most impactful marketing campaigns in the history of marketing, they all kind of fizzle out. You know, like even the biggest, even the This Is SportsCenter campaign. You don't see those anymore, do you? Used to be so synonymous with our brand.
That's a terrible example. Don't take shots at SportsCenter.
Don't take shots at me and my points. You know what I mean? I just said it was an iconic marketing campaign, but it's phased out over time.
No, they just changed it. And you sound like somebody that never participated in one of those commercials.
You think I'm salty because I was never in a This Is SportsCenter commercial?
One of my favorite
I've never hosted SportsCenter.
Was somebody got on the elevator and they was with the New Jersey Devil.
Who was it?
Who was it?
Down. Who got the elevator?
Scott.
Okay.
Rest in peace, my brother.
Shout out.
And so the thing that Nike had, besides the most money, the most technology, the best shoes, the best product, is they had the best global icon promoting the product, and that was Michael Air Jeffrey Jordan. Mm-hmm. That allowed a level of sustainability that he still now sells more shoes after retirement than everybody playing put together currently. So that has has allowed them to have that level of staying power. But for 30 years, I agree with you. That is amazing.
And it's the 30th anniversary. So they came out with a campaign, which is a black and white, tightly shot images of some iconic athletes and some sayings about them. One of which, Serena Williams. You know, and there were some others. And one of which just happened to be a quarterback that used to play in the NFL named Colin Kaepernick.
So, a few things. It's just unfortunate that our country seems to be more divided right now than ever. And I'm not just talking about political lines. I'm talking about racial lines, respecting one another's feelings and emotions, opinions. Living in the land of the free, I appreciate everyone having the opportunity to express themselves, even if I don't believe what they say,
of course,
or I don't support what they say. And to truly support our military, and my brother's a veteran, by the way, is to allow those liberties that they fought so hard for to now play out in our lives and not be so harsh or so judgmental about people who have peaceful protests taking place, who have thoughtful opinions about subjects that they're passionate about. And this goes beyond sports and entertainment. This is just a life trait that I hope we get back to. And one of the more disturbing things that I saw is if you're upset at a company for using an individual who talked about wanting to see better equality in our community, and you're actually burning items, then I think that's something that you should probably really look in the mirror, because that's the reflection that I get when I hear stories like that. And if you're that upset with the company, I bet you ain't burning them Jordans. I saw some people burning some Nike gear, but it wasn't them new crisp ones that people be buying and paying $300-400 for. So it's like a selective amnesia for how you want to express your disdain for a company who actually did something that's trying to move the conversation forward.
And I've seen like a handful of examples of people sort of like responding to Nike using Colin Kaepernick in the campaign by destroying Nike merchandises, but literally like a handful. I think it's become a news story. Like we've both seen the one image of the burning shoes in the grass, right? But I haven't seen 100.
That was like LeBron's burning jersey.
That's what I'm saying. And we've seen one image of a sound man cutting off the swoosh on his socks, but not 100. And it's one of these things where like we create these narratives as the media. Like we kind of create these things. Like, is there really a huge, strong backlash against the Nike Corporation because they use Colin Kaepernick? I'm not sure. Are there some people upset about it? Of course there are, because that's the state of our country right now. But I think that we create this sometimes when it doesn't really exist.
Well, there's an undertone that exists, and we saw it going into the election, how you would get the projections of who might vote where, and once the actual proceedings took place, that was flipped upside down. So there are people who feel that way based on who was used and why they were used. But what I just try to implore people to do is just have an open mind, have an open heart, allow people to express themselves and be passionate about things that they really care about, and don't get angry at them.
I don't. But things that don't directly affect me don't bother me.
Yes, like
things that don't affect me don't bother me.
And if he chose in NFL players and athletes and entertainers and people with a profile, and I do this as well, choose to use that level of celebrity or choose to use your voice for something other than yourself and trying to be a positive contributor to society, that should be welcome. Mm-hmm. So that's what I just try to continue to put in the atmosphere at a time where a lot of divisiveness is taking place.
So I struggle with this because I've got a generally skeptical standpoint. You know what I mean? I'm skeptical sometimes. I can get negative sometimes. And I want to ask you a question. And I don't think this is 0%. I don't think it's 100%. But Nike is celebrating Colin Kaepernick and the stance that he took. And they're doing that, and I truly believe, from an honest place. You know what I mean? They're using him as a role model, and they're celebrating what he's done. The same way they celebrate Serena's tennis accomplishments, they're celebrating Colin Kaepernick's sort of like I don't know what to say, protesting accomplishments, for lack of a better term. What percentage of the Nike marketing team is like, we know this is going to be a news story. We know this is going to be viral in today's day and age, and we know that this is going to sort of like be a conversation starter, and that's good for business. Like, is it 100% we're just celebrating him honestly, or is there like 90% we're celebrating him honestly, but 10% we're, know that we're in the business of putting our names in people's mouths, and this is going to be a story?
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say 50-50. Because it is a business transaction.
I think it's like 90-10.
No, here's why. I'm going to tell you why. Because when he initially took a knee, he was wearing their product. Mm-hmm. And since that situation took place, my phone battery died. Since that situation took place, they still continue to allow him to be an endorser. It wasn't like they dropped him.
No, they didn't. They kind of kept him on stash for this moment.
Correct. And if he would have got a chance to play in the NFL, guess what shoes he would have been wearing?
Nikes.
Okay, so he was still a part of what they've done. It's just that he wasn't being highlighted. And so now when you see the 30th anniversary coming, mm-hmm. and you understand that he hasn't been in football for the last couple of years, and I get what you're saying. You could have been that company that stood on the table, and when you saw him get ostracized out of the league, you probably could have came to his aid then and tried to use that that storm to get him a job 2 seasons ago in the NFL. I get what you're saying, and that's fair. But also, they never were detached from him. And so I respect that. And so now, at this point, you have to do it when it's heightened. Mm-hmm. And now they have something to release. Now they have something to discuss.
Something to peg it to.
They did multiple athletes that are really notable in their brand. And he just so happened to be one of them.
It's a really good campaign. And I think that this is truly them celebrating what he's done to 85%, but 15% is like, this is going to be good for business.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
It's a transaction.
It's like at the end of the day, like, they're in the business of selling shoes. They're in the business of moving their brand forward. And I think that they made a decision that this was going to be good for their brand. And they also know in the back of their mind that people like us are going to talk about it for a couple days.
But here's a narrative I need to shoot down. This whole idea that because he and other NFL players decide to use where they're being marketed and watched the most, and that's when they're about to play a football game, at their job, at their place of business, whatever you deem, to take that opportunity to bring awareness to something, that isn't necessarily stopping people from watching the game.
No.
Those are two different narratives.
And again, remember this one when ESPN announced that they weren't going to show the anthem? And people started getting upset about that. I was like, wait a second.
Company's been doing
it's like we never did in the first place. It'd be stranger if we started showing the anthem now.
Well, also, here's the other thing. For those that haven't been paying attention, it's not just the anthem. I'll dumb it down for you. There were the networks didn't show touchdown and sack celebrations. You never realized until a year or so ago, when your favorite player made a big play and scored or got a sack, they take the camera off of them. And then they'll see what they're going to do first. And then they'll decide if they're going to show you the replay or not. Mm-hmm. So that really is just like a television trick that's been taking place.
You can thank Randy Moss for that one. you can thank Randy Moss for that one.
Getting knocked down on the football field makes you tough. But getting back up makes you tougher. At Goodyear, we call that determination. A willingness to put in more hours, more reps, and more heart to reach a bar that's sky high. Because the Goodyear blimp doesn't show up for just anybody. So don't be just anybody. Be blimp-worthy. Goodyear, more driven.
So, yep, Jalen's always doing something else while he's doing the podcast.
But I'm trying to be loyal to the fans.
Of course.
And our supporters. I was doing it live, and it just...
So, a couple of things happened in the NBA I want to discuss with you that seem like they weren't big deals, but I think they're very big deals.
Okay.
One is the Rockets. Okay. I believe in Daryl Morey. I'm going to say that the Rockets did not have a great offseason in comparison to off seasons past for this team. But I have a blind faith in Daryl Morey making moves. They did something pretty sneaky, just kind of in end of August. All of a sudden, Ryan Anderson, that guy that we don't play in the playoffs, that we're paying like $20 million to, we're just kind of going to unload him. So they got out from under the Ryan Anderson contract, which was the worst contract on their books, considering they couldn't play him in the playoffs for defensive reasons. And they cleared up a little bit of space. So they can now do what they did last year with Gerald Green and Joe Johnson. Now they've got the opportunity to say, our roster on opening day is not going to be our roster for the playoffs, which is very helpful to have that flexibility throughout the season. And this is the one that I don't know is going to happen, but it's a possibility. Ariza could get bought out by the Suns. Let's imagine that. Ariza gets bought out by the Suns. The biggest hole in their roster is the 3 position, right? He could be back on the Rockets.
Well, what I've learned about a lot of these deals, and probably I have to dig deeper into this, is I like to pay attention to the relationships. Mm-hmm. So if I'm in the game, I will be quickly trying to identify, is there a level of relationship that the Rockets front office has with the Phoenix Suns? Because when you say that they traded Ryan Anderson, that's one thing. But when you say they just gave Trevor Ariza $15 million and the season ain't even started and he might get bought out, that sounds like shenanigans.
The buyout game is shenanigans. You've been calling this for a long time.
Correct.
Like, at some point, the 1 through 16 thing is like that the whole world is ran with that one. That's going to happen, and everyone will forget that you were the one that said it first. That's fine. I'm happy with that. That doesn't bother me. But the buyout game is one that no one's really picked up yet.
I've never been a fan of how that affects the balance of power late in season.
You know who doesn't get bought out? The 12th man on the bench. Someone you've never heard of. Someone in their second year in the league.
Or how
they don't
about
get
this?
bought out.
How about this?
Impact players get bought out.
Guess what else? You know who doesn't acquire players in buyouts? Teams that are struggling.
Yeah, the teams in the lottery.
Teams that were struggling be like,
maybe we can get better. Yeah, we got a vet. Maybe we can use a vet. We can use a vet in the locker room. That'd be helpful for our young guys. You just get it for the minimum. Nope, it's always contending teams or teams just trying to get in the playoffs. But they're always impactful. The buyout market needs to be regulated. It can't be like this. You should not be able to pick up Joe Johnson at the end of the year if you're the Rockets. Did Joe Johnson, was he effective in the playoffs? No, but something like that happens. Like, imagine like a Marc Gasol or something, like people become available.
But also too, and I like to give props where they're warranted, not that they were the first team to actually do a move like this, but for modern day consumption, the team that initially that helped them in a playoff run do this was the Boston Celtics. I remember when they signed P.J. Brown and Sam Cassell and a couple of those players.
That was the finals team.
And that was something that became a catalyst for teams to start really doing it the way it's been done over the last few years.
That wasn't a finals team, I think something else. But yeah, they did that. And how would you regulate it, though? We can't just point at the problem. We got to come with a solution.
Really simple. You can't do any buyouts after the trade deadline.
Trade deadline is your locked roster. That's your roster.
Correct.
There's some exceptions for injuries or whatever, but that's your roster.
By the way, this is going to happen. I'm going to put this on wax. They're going to switch when you can do buyouts and put it in front of the trade deadline.
They should.
They're going to switch that.
They should. After the trade deadline, you should have your team.
That's
why it's called the deadline.
Correct.
It's a very loose deadline.
Correct. Because I can't truly will and deal with good faith knowing that buyouts can still take place.
Of course. Yeah. It's gonna, because if because we know who's gonna, we know who's gonna be bought out, like who's gonna be on that market, and sometimes it's more impactful players than others.
I'll tell you who's gonna be bought out. Usually it's players on the final year of their contract playing on teams in the lottery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's
they
really
get paid
what it
over
is.
like $15 million.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And the club says they'd rather save a couple of $1 million, especially if they're a luxury tax team, than finish out the season with this player on their roster, so they write them a check. I've been one of those players with the Knicks when I went to Phoenix.
Did you know you were going to Phoenix?
I had a couple of options. Either I was going to go to Miami, Detroit, or Phoenix.
What happened to Detroit? You never got a chance to put the Pistons uniform on.
I know.
You played for 20% of the league.
I know.
You could have put the Pistons uniform on.
I know.
You just didn't want to deal with the tickets.
Well, here's what I didn't want my local fans to see me washed.
Good point.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, if I wanted to come to the first half of my career, cool. Y'all ain't about to see my final year.
Yeah, y'all remember me at the Fat Five. Yeah.
Because I'll be getting more tickets than playing minutes.
Yeah. You don't need an overweight Jalen.
Now, it'll be 25% less Jalen's in the world. You know what I'm saying? If I would have did that.
Another move that was interesting, Lil Dang got bought out.
Gave back $7 million.
I believe in Rob Pelinka. You know what I mean? Like, I think that the Lakers have a really good 1-2 punch in Magic and Rob Pelinka. You know, because they've got Magic. You do the press conferences, Magic. When the players come to town, we need to do some tampering. Magic, that's all you. But Rob Pelinka, a former agent, is very familiar with the contract structures and the salary cap moves and all of that. And they opened up potentially next year to have $38.2 million in cap space.
Yep.
Do you know what Kevin Durant's salary is next year?
That exact number?
That exact number. 38.2. Huh. That's interesting. So they've got the ability to add a max player next year. I've got a list here of players that will be available to potentially fill that spot. I'm going to say the player, and you're going to say the percentage chance that they end up in the purple and gold. Are you prepared for this?
Sure.
Kevin Durant. What percentage chance could he end up playing for the Lakers next year?
2%.
Kyrie Irving.
0%.
0%, right? Jimmy Butler.
50-50.
Klay Thompson.
10%.
Karl Anthony Towns would be a restricted free agent.
Either him or Butler. 50-50.
Ooh. Kristaps Porzingis. Restricted free agent.
0%.
DeMarcus Cousins. Boogie!
You know what? Another 50-50.
Ooh.
Because here's what's got to happen with the Warriors.
Talk to me.
You can't have... It's one thing to have 5 All-Stars. It's another thing to have 5 max
players. Yeah, exactly.
That's way different.
I don't think you can do that. Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is going to happen, but at some point they're going to have to choose. And I think that choice is probably going to end up being up front between Boogie and Draymond.
And it's interesting because Boogie, again, it's just Instagram videos or whatever, but he's shooting hoops. Like, I thought this Achilles injuries are tough because they really sideline you for a long time, and a lot of big men don't bounce back from Achilles injuries. But he looks pretty mobile, and I imagine that maybe he would come back next year in like March, you know? But he seems like he's working out, and he's moving along in his rehabilitation. And this year goes one of two ways for Boogie. It either goes, he's not fully healthy, he's still working himself back, they can't really work him into their true game plan in the playoffs, and he's not the impactful player that we expect him to be for the Warriors, and the Warriors end up winning the championship anyway, and they say, thank you so much for the time, Boogie, but you're about to go get a max deal from another team, right? Or he could be back being 25-12, and then you've got a Boogie Cousins on the market who's the Boogie Cousins he used to be, who's, again, the Warriors aren't going to have the space to re-sign him, but he could be a max player going to another team at the end of this year.
If you're Boogie, it's a couple of things. You go from being a guy that has scored the most points in a game to never play in the playoffs, and people question your attitude, your demeanor, and if you can be a winner, to this time next year, he could be a champion. That fast. And so people got to always remember it's a team game, but also I think that's when the choice happens. If he comes in, he's really effective, and he plays to the level that he did before his injury, then you got to make some decisions up front. And that's where I really think it's going to be. They are going to have to decide, are we keeping Draymond or are we keeping Boogie? That's going to be the choice.
Yeah, you got to keep Draymond. Got to. Yeah. If they win, Even if they lose in the Western Conference Finals or whatever, you got to keep Draymond.
And see, and it's not as cut and dry because, like, when you talk talent, I can't name you 5 more talented people in the game than Boogie. Just dribble, pass, and shoot at 6'11", shooting the threes. So he's going to give you an element that Draymond just can't give you, like on putbacks, on post-ups, on mid-range. Like,
but Draymond
he's going to improve them drastically.
Can't give you, like, defense. 50% of the game. Boogie, not the greatest defender in the world. Nope.
And also, people underestimate Draymond is either going to be first or second on the Warriors when they're really functioning at an optimum level in rebounds and or assists.
Assists, yeah.
That's Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
And he gives them a level of leadership and toughness that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. And versatility. It's one thing to talk about his defense. It's another thing to say he can guard multiple positions, especially late in the shot clock.
And before KD got there, Draymond was a very important offensive player for them. Yep. Not always stat sheet stuff, but like that pick and roll when he would catch it kind of around the top of the key free throw line area and sort of initiate the offense 4 and 5 from there. Like Draymond was dealing. Like that was part of their whole offensive strategy was get Draymond the ball and and have him make decisions.
Yep. Farm, Kathy here.
Hey, it's Mike. My team just pulled off the biggest upset in the history of forever.
Nice, Mike.
Yeah, and some fans are getting crazy. They even flipped over a car.
Whoa.
Turns out it's my car, though.
Oh.
But I don't want to be upset right now. I want to know State Farm's going to take care of this, right?
We got you covered, Mike. Enjoy yourself.
Yes! Woo! Thank you! Woo!
Go with the one that's here to help life go right. State Farm. Talk to an agent today.
So here's something that I want everybody to look forward to when they watch the Warriors this year that I think is a storyline that's not getting discussed. It's going to be a primary topic once basketball truly happens. Steph Curry about to light the league on fire again.
Oh.
See, what ended up happening is you welcome KD with the open arms. You have all humility. You fall on the sword. You do whatever it takes to continue to win. Rightfully so, a 50, 40, 90 guy that's 6'11" is going to come in and not only win championships, but win 2 finals MVPs. And so now teams are starting to be fixated on what they're going to do up front and what they're going to do on the wing to combat LeBron and Kawhi and KD and how we're going to get smaller to switch in lineups and stuff. And you're taking 6'11", 7-foot guys out of the game and you making your lineup compressing. The teams that you're playing against are just going to be flat out shorter. Look at the Boston Celtics. When they don't have Al Horford in the game.
Who's not that tall.
Okay.
They got Aaron Baines.
When they don't have they're going to have Jalen Brown. They're going to have Jason Tatum. Mm-hmm. Like they're going to play in today's game. It's considered a small ball lineup.
It is small ball.
And late in the game,
Horford at the 5 is small ball.
Correct. And so Steph Curry is now, to me, going to regain a level of productivity, aggressiveness that he had a couple of years ago.
Because when the Warriors are at their best is when
he's attacking.
The ball is moving and Steph is attacking the basket and making things happen. When the Warriors stumble is when they rely on the KD mid-post stuff like they did for a couple games in the Rockets series. Like there was a couple games in the Rockets series where when did the Warriors turn into the ISO ball team? You know, because KD is I don't know, probably the best scorer in the game. He's 6'11", he's got to turn around, he can post, he can do everything. But he did slow the ball movement down a little bit for the Warriors.
Because that's what happens when you have great players. You have to acquiesce to what they do best. And sometimes you can't play a windshield wiper game when you got a guy that's like, give me the ball. I got this.
And he does have it.
Against LeBron James.
Yes. Yeah. It's just like sometimes the best play is to dump it into KD and let him operate, but it does kind of change what they fundamentally do. Why do you say that he's going to light the league on fire? Like, I'm intrigued by that. Because 3 years ago, he was the unanimous MVP and literally lit the league on fire.
Because it's going to be his 3rd year playing with KD, and I'm looking at it almost like coming off an injury. It'll take a couple of years to fully regain your confidence, fully regain your form, and they're not going to be as deep. See, remember, the more All-Stars to get in that lineup, the less to come off the bench. And so he's going to be required to actually play a lot more minutes. He's going to be 32, 35, 38 minutes, even if the team is up 20 points in the game, just because they're going to need him to play those minutes.
It's interesting. I can see that because Steph, there was a while during that MVP run where I was like, oh, well, he's next. He's like the next dominant player in this sport. And then because their team has so many scorers and good players on it, that he did kind of take.
I'm putting it on wax. He'll be back.
Well, I like the Lakers. I really like what they're doing. Do you think they could make a trade? Like Jimmy Butler, I think the Timberwolves, I'm sorry, Minnesota. I'm sorry. I don't see the Timberwolves coming together this year. Did you see this rumor? Do you know who the Timberwolves are rumored to be interested in acquiring?
In trading Wiggins?
No. Just acquiring. Lol Deng and Joakim Noah. What? Gibson, Rose, Deng, Noah. Butler. Does this sound familiar to you at all? What? Does this sound familiar, Tibbs? Does this sound familiar to you?
Sound like trying to reincarnate the Bulls.
The Bulls from 5 years ago. This hasn't happened, but it might just be like a tweet, you know what I mean? But to acquire Deng at this point, he hasn't played. I play more basketball than Deng has.
Well, first off, the last time I seen Joakim Noah, it don't look like he ready to pass no NBA drug test.
No, he's not.
I'll just say that.
He's gonna be like, yeah, you can sign me, but just give me like 4 months. Give me 4 months.
That's one. 2, I just don't believe that's gonna take place and it ain't going down like that.
So the Raptors assistant, Phil Handy, he's got a managerial role in those UCLA runs that you used to play in that we see video from. Kawhi Leonard played there and LeBron sat and watched for some reason. This is what he said about Kawhi, quote, "He's doing great. He's in great shape. His body looks good. He's feeling good. He's moving well, so I don't anticipate any issues or problems." Do you think Kawhi Leonard is 100% healthy going into the season for the Raptors?
I think he will be. I think that was the purpose of only playing 9 games last year when you felt the team misdiagnosed you. A friend of mine, Roger Mason Jr., who also played with the San Antonio Spurs, and not picking on their franchise or their organization. I know how great they are. Everybody has heard me scream, "Go Spurs, go," louder than anybody in the media. He also acknowledged that he had an injury that was misdiagnosed by that team. So I'm not saying it's the same staff. I'm clearly not saying this on purpose, but it's sports. It happens. As athletes, we want to be out there. We don't know the difference between being hurt and injured. Kawhi is the same thing. You feel like you know your body. Hey, get on out there. He got out there. He realized that he wasn't able to go. Then when y'all like, I'm cleared, and I'm like, I ain't good, that's when things start to go, it becomes a fork in the road.
Because if he was semi-cleared or was close to playing or whatever at the end of last season, he'll be ready to go this season.
Right.
Toronto's going to be good.
They're going to be real good.
Toronto's going to be good. Does he stay in Toronto?
I got to see how they play. It's really, to me, going to be a basketball decision. If I had to guess right now, I would say no.
Could he go to the Lakers? Percent chance he goes to the Lakers to join LeBron?
I don't think he wants that. I don't think it's a fit. If Kawhi goes to LA, it's going to be to the Clippers. You heard me, Marcellus.
What?
Huh. That's why one of the reasons why they kept Doc Rivers. That's what I do for a living.
Okay.
It won't be to the Lakers.
If Kawhi goes to LA, it'll be with the Clippers. All right, Reggie, make a note because Jalen's going to say, can we pull up that sound? So whatever you do, Reggie, make a note. Put the time code down. Put it on wax. Jalen Rose. Say it again, Jalen.
If Kawhi Leonard leaves Toronto, it won't be for the Los Angeles Lakers. It'll be for the Clippers. I know he said he wanted to go play in Cali, but us in the media assumes that means he wants to play in purple and gold now with LeBron James. I don't believe that's going to necessarily take place if he bounces from the Raptors.
And we putting it on wax.
Because the Lakers have this spot, who do you think would be the best fit for them?
Well, if you're going to beat the Golden State Warriors, one guy ain't coming. Is KD. The other guy I just said I don't think is coming is Kawhi. There's some great free agents next year, including Jimmy Butler, who I think would be a terrific fit. Yep. But adding just one of those guys with LeBron and the talented core that the Lakers currently have, it's going to be an exciting contending team, but I don't think it's still going to be Golden State Warrior beatable type great.
So the Lakers are on national television every single night of the season. Like, I think they're on national television 53 times.
They on tonight, and they don't even have a game.
It's ridiculous how much the Lakers... I mean, I'm shocked by this. And I understand it, too, because, I'm a LeBron stan. I want to see LeBron. But we always say that happiness is a function of realistic expectations.
Yep.
What are your realistic expectations for the Lakers this year?
5th seed in the West, depending on the matchup, against a 4 seed, possibly advance out of the first round. Other than that, it's going to be reserved for the Warriors, the Rockets, OKC. Those, to me, are teams that I'm banking on to be the top 3 teams in the conference. Those are the best 3
teams in the Western Conference right now. Injuries and things happen, and things don't go the way you always expect, but those are the best 3 teams. Yep. So we've worked together for a long time, and over that time, I'm a Die Easy fan, I take on my friends' teams. You know what I mean? So I've taken on the Michigan Wolverines. I root for them in basketball, and I root for them in football.
But you're a great friend.
They had the biggest game over the weekend. NBC, prime time, on Saturday night. So I left the house. I went to the bar. The audio was playing loud. I was so excited for this game. I said, look, this is going to be the year Harbaugh finally pays off. And they didn't look good, Jalen. They really didn't look good. They didn't.
Well, first off, the margin of error in college football is really slim. Notre Dame and Michigan were both ranked in the top 15. It's not like either team put a cupcake to start their season. These 2 teams had a storied rivalry that they finally renewed after a few years, which was dumb that they weren't playing against each other anyway. Notre Dame was clearly the better football team. I'm not going to take anything away from them. When they came out and got off to that lead, playing on their home field, I felt like it's going to be trouble. Shea Patterson looked uncomfortable.
Sure did. He didn't look great.
As somebody that, supports Michigan through and through, I've seen them running 2 offenses. We've had one extremely mobile quarterback, Denard Robinson, shoelace, who dazzled in the pocket, but usually it was been more of a traditional player. Elvis Gerbeck, Todd Collins, Tom Brady, Drew Henson, Brian Greasy. It's just been more of a traditional quarterback. So to see somebody back there that's trying to be a combination of the 2, I just think it's going to take time for the offense to catch up with what they hope to get accomplished. As it relates to Notre Dame's scores, their first touchdown was against our backup safety because our starting safety got ejected for targeting, which was a bogus call.
That was a bogus call.
They got a touchdown later in the game after we got a roughing the passer penalty, a legitimate call, but you extend the downs, and before you know it, they score.
On third down, you can't do that.
Correct.
Third down in that place, that part of the field, come on.
It just shows the margin of error. So that's 2 touchdowns
but for all those players on the defensive side of the ball for Michigan, they're supposed to be playing on Sunday. I expected more from that defense because they were moving the ball against them. They were really moving the ball. And they had trouble keeping Wimbush in the pocket.
Yeah.
Wimbush was giving them trouble.
Yeah, that's why I want to make sure I give Notre Dame props because Kelly and Harbaugh kind of went into the game both feeling like for public consumption, this is something they need to get off to a good start and try to get this dub. And he's getting the opposite commentary of Harbaugh right now because they won the first game.
It's one game. You know what I mean? It's one game. Couple touchdowns, couple balls bounced a different way. It's not over for the Michigan Wolverines. It's not over for the Michigan Wolverines.
No.
And they've got a very good team.
We play against 4 ranked teams this year in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's going down. So we got... This is what I wanted to talk to you about. The Hockey Hall of Fame. They're in charge of the Stanley Cup. The Stanley Cup is something interesting. If you win the Stanley Cup, everybody gets a day with the cup. They'll fly the cup out to Czechoslovakia. That doesn't exist anymore. The Czech Republic, and you can have a day with the cup in your hometown or whatever. So now they've got a policy that they just put out. They don't want people doing keg stands with the cup anymore. And they said, quote, "We asked them politely not to do it. We're trying to preserve the history of the Stanley Cup. We don't want any unnecessary damage to it or a person in case they drop the person or he presses too hard on something."
That's one of those things where you just have to say it and put it in writing to say that you did, but they don't care.
That's what I'm saying. It's first of all, you're allowed to punch each other in the face in hockey. You're worried about someone hurting themselves doing a keg stand? Drinking out of a cup? That's what you're worried about?
That's one
you
of those
can punch
things,
each other in the face.
You know how corporate America works. It's one person in the NHL office in power that doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And the other 99% of people like, all right.
Yeah, so
to appease this person in power, we're going to send an email.
Kristen doesn't like the.
We're going to send out a fax.
Stands.
We're going to
so
make sure
write
that we said it, and then that's it. But they didn't say there was going to be a penalty for it.
No.
Okay.
Of course not. All right. We always say we give the people what they want. Part of giving the people what they want is opening up our voicemail lines and our Twitter. 98580-JALEN is our voicemail. Make sure you call in and leave voicemails. We usually do women only on Wednesday, but we have been away for so long that we're going to open up to all callers like this one.
Yo, Jalen and Jacoby. This is Jonas North. I was wondering, how do you think of Detroit natives Eminem's new rap album? What do you guys think? Shout out Reg. Keep it 100. Later.
Shout to him. This is something that I forgot to put in the rundown that we should discuss, Eminem's new album. I love Eminem for obvious reasons.
So I've heard it.
Of course.
I've studied 50% of it. And that's two different processes for you young musical heads out there. Because I'm somebody that actually enjoys different elements of a record and of an album. Like, first and foremost, the bars.
So many bars.
Number one. Number two, the beats. Number two, the lyrical content. And also, my brother Royce was featured on the album.
That song with Royce is so hot.
It is so fire.
Royce is at his Royce, when he knows he's on an M track, he steps it up a little bit.
Become correct.
Yeah.
No doubt. And he always been like that. So I'm proud of my Detroit homies. I appreciate that Big Sean winning. It's our turn right now. T Grizzly winning. It's our turn right now. You just mentioned a couple of other guys. And if people don't like it, I just call up the homie Trick. Create the no-fly zone.
Shout out.
We don't play those games. Detroit, stand up.
I love the Eminem album.
I do too.
And you know what? I didn't love Revival that much. This is kind of like the response to people that didn't love Revival. I love Eminem. I didn't love Revival. There's some good songs on there, but I didn't play it over and over again. I love this one because Eminem, he reminds me of Bill Simmons a little bit. He's at his best when he's angry. You know what I mean? Bill needs to be angry sometimes. You know, he's just at his best. And it's just like, now Eminem's got something to be angry about again.
I like that example.
He's got something to be angry about again. You know,
yeah,
it's just like
shot,
when he's mad, when Eminem feels like he's slighted, when Eminem feels like there's injustice in the world, when he needs to vent, when he's emotional, when he's up against the wall, that's when you get your best Eminem. And sometimes he sort of creates that for himself, like he did this time. You know what I mean? People like, but he definitely delivered. And there are at least like 5 songs in there where I'm like, oh wow, like I almost like I want to apologize to Eminem because I forgot how good he was. Like, I just want to like I've been like, Marshall, I'm sorry, Marshall, I forgot how good you were.
See, in music, it's tricky because like people that represent your hometown, you see them as yours. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like y'all just catching up. Like where y'all been? And then I have to realize, like, he's been doing this for 20 years.
20 years.
And so people come in and out of projects. People have different opinions about, you know.
It's fickle. Like, you can be, everybody has their time. For some reason, music's like fashion. It's like you kind of can't be on top forever. You know? It's just kind of the way it goes. Like, it's part of the brand. And, like, do you remember when 50 Cent, like, was G-Unit and 50 Cent were everything? It seemed like G-Unit was going to be the best rapper forever. It was just like, that's what he was. But that sort of comes and goes with time. And I think Eminem's seeing that happen to himself, and he's just like, no. Like, no. I'm doing this.
But that's why anybody with longevity continues to reinvent themselves. That's the key. Curtis has done it with power. Mm-hmm. Killed off Kanan so he can be behind the camera producing.
You become an executive. Don't forget that Eminem signed Curtis.
No question.
So Eminem basically challenged everybody. He didn't call out everybody by name, but he called out a lot of people by name.
He did.
And one of those people,
called out a rap style too.
Yes, he did. And one of those people that he called out was Machine Gun Kelly.
Saw that.
Machine Gun Kelly.
Clap back.
And you know what? I liked his track. Yeah. I didn't like it as much as Eminem, but I liked it. I was like, oh, okay, like he's making some points and it's a nice little song. But it is one of those things where it's like, you know, you just made a diss track about Marshall Mathers, right? When you make a diss track about Eminem, it's just like, oh, thank you, Machine Gun Kelly. Thank you. Because like I said before, Eminem, he wants a target. He needs a target. He needs to be angry. He needs to feel slighted. And he does now. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the upcoming song about Machine Gun Kelly. And if I was Machine Gun Kelly, I'd be worried every single day if I was Machine Gun Kelly. I would just be refreshing my Twitter feed, just be like, did he drop it yet? Did he drop it yet? Did he drop it yet? Because he's going to drop it, and it's coming. And the longer it takes, the worse it's going to be. The worse it's going to be. Let's listen to another voicemail.
Jalen and Jacoby, what up, doe? Reggie, shout out. How you guys doing today? Got a little question, not really a question, just kind of got a little theory, wanted to see what you think of it. I'm thinking the Spurs are going to be really good next year. They played the Warriors in the first round of the playoffs as a 7 seed last year with 12 games of Kawhi Leonard. The West was very stacked, and I don't do research like Jacoby, so I don't know how many games it was, but they made the playoffs in the West. Don't sleep on the fact that they were a 7 seed. They played the Warriors in the first round, made the 7 seed, without Kawhi Leonard. They traded Kawhi Leonard's carcass for DeMar DeRozan. Shouldn't they be a top 4 team? I know they lost Parker. I know they lost Ginobili, but they weren't the real contributing factors at this point, were they? Fucking big Spurs. Max from Fort Lauderdale, not even a Spurs fan, but big fan of your show and you guys, and shout out the staff, shout out everybody, shout out Medicinal, and have a great day, guys. You're the best. Peace.
Max from Fort Lauderdale's, he's just saying, hey, don't sleep on the Spurs. Don't forget about the Spurs. You say that every single year. You know what? And I'm saying the same thing I say every single year. I'm sleeping on the Spurs.
And I'm rolling with them. Yes, the one question is, yes, they'll be a year older up front, in particular players like Paul Gasol, but also players like Murray have more experience. DeMar DeRozan is going to average 25 points. LaMarcus Aldridge was an all-NBA performer last year, and they have Pop on the sideline. Yep. So, when I'm talking about the Lakers being like a 5 seed in the West, I'm thinking about teams like San Antonio. Mm-hmm. I'm not leaving them out when I say that. There's something that they're a team I feel like I can count on.
And DeMar DeRozan's not hurt.
Correct.
DeMar DeRozan, no question marks about DeMar DeRozan. He's motivated, and he's one of the best players in the East last year. I think people sleep on him because he's not like that highlight guy.
Ball.
But DeMar DeRozan can play. Yep. We had the Jalen and Jacoby fantasy draft yesterday. How'd you feel about your team?
I felt good about my squad. I'll pull it up right now if you want me to. I didn't realize you were going to ask me about it, but yeah.
So
how'd you feel about yours?
Great about my team. I feel great about my team. So I got Andrew Luck, which is one thing. I got him, people that worried about his questionable foot or whatever, but I got Andrew Luck and Phillip Rivers. I feel really good about my quarterbacks.
I've had Phillip Rivers a couple of years. He's consistent. He's touchdowns. He plays every game.
And then I got Leonard Fournette. I got Hunt. Marius Thomas. Eifert, you had Eifert one year, right? He's good.
Yeah, he's
good. Derrick Henry. I'm really happy with my team.
I'm about to pull up.
They got Cooper Kupp because I always like to keep a white guy in the locker room. You know what I mean? You got to keep a white guy in the locker room.
All right, so my squad, I remember having Matthew Stafford at quarterback.
Of course, I was going to pick him.
I think it was one of my.
You got my guy
picks.
Christian McCaffrey.
I did.
You did that just as trade bait for me because you know I'll overpay for Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, because I know you wanted a white running back.
Yeah, of course.
It's not that many. Y'all stick together, so I knew what you was trying to do there. Mm-hmm. Amina did that to me when she took Russell Wilson away. I was going to try to get him, and she snatched him up. But my squad, and I ain't mad at it. I'm a great GM. So I got Saquon Barkley. Took him as my first pick.
Yep, that was smart.
I wasn't playing
He's
around.
Gonna be good.
And I was 6th. So to get him at 6, that was good. Then I took Christian McCaffrey, 2nd pick.
Good. I'm happy that you're happy, Jalen.
So
all right.
I ain't
Before
mad
we
at
bounce, I got to get a couple questions from Twitter. Quick question from Twitter. This is from Lobster Statue. Shout out to Lobster Statue.
Jarvis Landry.
Talking on a speakerphone in public, is that cultural?
It's just whack.
And is that a soft move or boss move?
It's a soft move.
Okay. I can't stand people that use their speakerphone.
Me either.
I don't want to hear your conversation.
Why?
Why are you doing that? Do you not know how to use a phone? Do you know how phones work?
That's right.
Now, what about you when you talk like you're on a speakerphone in public, but you're not on a speakerphone? The way you use the phone is you turn the phone parallel to the ground.
So I'm terrible with phone or interviews.
Yeah, he turns the phone parallel to the ground like it's a serving tray and then speaks into it and then listens to it. And then turns it to speak into it again and then listens to it. What is your strategy?
I've heard a couple of phone or interviews that I did. They sounded terrible.
Why do you do that?
Because it's just like when I get passionate about it, I guess I just want to talk.
That's just what you do?
Yeah.
Okay, I ain't mad at you. And finally, we got one more Twitter question. This is from associate producer Goron. When do you know if you found the one? When did you guys know that your significant other was the one?
I think you know when your significant other is the one when you're willing to sacrifice for them and you think about their feelings and their best interests, either as equal, if not more than yours, in all situations.
That's a good answer. I think that's true. And I will say this to that answer is, you expect this one moment to happen, but there is no one moment. It happens slowly over time. You know, like there's no like, oh, and then I looked at her across the street and I just knew she was the one. Like, no, it's just you meet her and then over time you just say, you know what, I cannot envision life without this person. It's not that romantic, but that's just kind of the way it goes. It's practical. Don't forget to call 985-80-JALEN. Leave us voicemails for next week. We'll be back next week.
We'll be back.
Full week of podcasts. I think we got Tuesday off, but we're preempted. But we got big announcement coming. Full week of podcasts next week. Mid-September, we are back in swing. You will not get this one podcast a week business from Jalen and Jacoby. You will get a dope pod to step to every single day, at least 4 times a week for the whole season. And we couldn't be more excited for you. The podcast is about to be more, it's going to be bigger, more intense, more often. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Thank you.
These vacations and preemptions, but we'll be back tomorrow with a dope pod to step to.
Thank you. You're far too kind.
Why are we going to be back?
We're not done. We're not done. Got to give the people time. Give people what they want.
They my little guys. I love them.